Oh, goodness. I am just having the hardest time studying for this AP Gov test. I think I just need to find a song with a sick beat. Just buckle down and study. What do I have here? I don't think I've heard this before. Let's check it out.
One for the cymbal, two for the bass. Come on, beatbox, let's rock the place.
What up, AP Gov? It's Colb on the mic. I'll start with the rap, cause I know it's what you like. Political parties are a topic today. Miley Cyrus party in the USA. In my opinion, that girl should stick to Hannah Montana. My rhymes are so sick, like I'm straight out Atlanta. My podcasts are addicting like banana bread. You can't take your eyes off it like The Walking Dead. So back on track, it's time for podcast perfection. Welcome you all to Colb's Connections.
I did it.
Ow!
I am ready to rock. Thank you for tuning in to Colb's Connections, your one-stop shop for getting a 5 on your AP Gov test. Today's topic, political parties in the USA. So we look at the history of our country. Very few great events are the result of just one person. As much as a politician who's campaigning for office would like you to think that he can change the world on his own, we know that more often than not, it is like-minded individuals who work together who actually have the ability to influence public policy. Political parties are groups within our country who share similar ideas about how government should be run. They have a variety of informal and formal techniques that make the government do what they hope it does. In this podcast, we're going to go over what are those techniques. Hopefully you remember from our country's history that political parties are specifically left out of our Constitution. That's because our founders were afraid of what they would do to us. Remember in George Washington's farewell address, he warned us of the dangers of a party system. Too often we blindly follow just one party without thinking about the reasons behind that.
Okay, what's wrong with Romney again?
Romney, he sucks! Hey! Obama!
You got Obama phone?
Yes, everybody in Cleveland, low minority, got Obama phone. Keep Obama in president, you know?
You can see that all the time. Even though our founders warned us of political parties, they actually existed before we had a constitution ratified. We saw that in a previous podcast with Federalists and Anti-Federalists. Today, our country is characterized by a two-party system. This is known as a bipartisan system. We're going to talk about now, why do we have just two parties? To understand the reasons behind our two-party system, let's first look at the functions or the things the political parties do. Political parties do a lot more than just make people have super obnoxious Facebook statuses bashing or supporting certain candidates. The first thing that they do is they serve as a linkage institution. A linkage institution is anything that links us, the people, to the government. The parties serve as a linkage institution in a number of ways. The first thing they do is they give us a place to vent our frustrations. We can talk to people who are like us. They give us a place to donate our money. They give us a sense of political efficacy. The word efficacy means that we, the people, actually feel that we matter and that what we say actually might have something to do with what the government does. You remember in the Foundations podcast, the idea of popular sovereignty, that we, the people, are in control of the government. Well, political parties helps us feel that sense because what we think and what we do has an impact on the government. Parties raise money, they campaign and help certain candidates make it into office. One of the big changes we've seen in political parties is the change in primary elections. What it used to be prior to the 1960s, that a candidate for office was chosen by very high-tier Republicans and Democrats in the party. Today we remember that each state runs a primary in order to decide who from that state or who from that party will represent them. We'll get more into this when we look at campaign finance reform. Parties also do a lot of recruiting and nomination of candidates. My deep-seated hope and desire is that some top-level party officials are watching this podcast and one day shall seek me to run as a member of his party. Not going to happen. Parties also do a lot of mobilization and education of voters. They will inform people out there who they should vote for, and a lot of times you'll see them funding campaigns and commercials through political action committees, which we'll look a lot more into in Campaigns and Elections podcast. You actually sometimes will see a party offer to drive people to the polls. So that's part of the mobilization. A big part of the party's role is helping their candidate get into office, but trust me, it does not stop once these officials get into office. Really, the parties continue to work once their candidate is in office. Here are a few ways that they do that. Once they're in office, parties still play a gigantic role. If you look at the House and the Senate, you'll see that the entire congressional leadership is organized along party lines. Both the House and the Senate have a structure of congressional leadership, which we've looked at, and you know that those are organized by Democrat and Republicans. The party leaders then set the agenda for houses of Congress. You'll also see that parties who aren't able to get their candidate elected to office, they still play a very big role in how government works. What we see is the party out of power often plays the role of watchdog. And like it sounds, basically this means that the party out of power watches and makes a lot of noise and barks when they see the other party make mistakes, maybe misleading the public. All you have to do is go and turn on Fox News and you will see the Republican Party examining every action of President Obama closer than my dog examines me. In this way, you could almost argue that parties provide a sense of accountability by watching the other party. Now, it's obvious to show that parties play a huge influence in getting a candidate into office, but that does not mean that a party's impact stops once the candidate gets into office, and that it applies just to the president and House. It also plays a huge role in the courts. One large thing that parties are able to do to impact the Supreme Court is to file what are known as amicus curiae briefs. And you remember that amicus curiae briefs are a huge part of the decision-making process for our Supreme Court justices. An amicus curiae brief literally means a friend of the court brief. Now, these documents compile statistics and relevant data that the court justices should read and analyze to help make their decision. Oftentimes, these amicus curiae briefs are actually filed by an interest group and political party. Think about if the Supreme Court were to debate the merits of constitutionality of gun control. You can bet that the Republican Party and the NRA would file an amicus curiae brief showing the ineffectiveness of gun control in, say, Chicago. So we live in a society where literally there are about 1,000 options for different types of Diet Coke. You could go to Diet Coke with lime, regular Diet Coke, caffeine-free lime Diet Coke, Diet Cherry Coke, Diet Coke Clear even. So why, when you go to vote, are there only two parties? Well, there are a couple reasons. The first of these reasons is that parties require gigantic financial contributions. Go ahead and take a look at this chart to show how much money was spent on the 2012 election. It's staggering. Another factor that really contributes to why you only have two choices is how the Electoral College works. Hopefully you remember the Electoral College, and you remember that one of the things they operate with is what's known as a winner-take-all system. Therefore, even if a third-party candidate is able to rise up and get 25 or 30% of the popular vote, you know they would have zero electoral votes. So why go through all that work for zero electoral votes? But despite the fact they're not successful in getting elected to office, these parties do exist, and they fall into different categories. The different types of third-party categories are, the first one is known as a splinter party. A splinter party is a party where the members split away from one of the major planks, kind of like a piece of wood. Remember, Teddy Roosevelt's Bull Moose Party was a splinter party of the Republican Party. Strom Thurmond had a States' Rights Party, which was a splinter party of the Democratic Party. We also have third parties known as single-issue parties. Obviously, parties that solely care about one issue, like abortion rights, the Right to Life Party, Prohibition Party. All they care about is getting one thing done, and then they're out. The last type of party we have is known as an ideological party. Basically, they construct themselves around a set of principles or ideas like the Communist Party of America, the Socialist Party of America. Both of these parties are real and actually garnered quite a few votes in the last presidential election. We live in a society where everyone gets a trophy. Trust me, I have a lot of them. So third parties have never had the trophy for winning office. They've done some other things that deserve a trophy. Here are some successful things that third parties have done. Third parties have begun to play this role known as the spoiler. What they're able to do is siphon off enough votes from a major candidate that it's said that they have a pretty impact on an election. Great example of this can be seen in the 2000 election between George W. Bush and Al Gore. You remember George W. Bush barely won Florida after a lot of recounts and some interesting hanging chads. We know that was a very controversial election, very close vote. Very interesting about this is Ralph Nader, who was a liberal, like Al Gore, was a part of the third party, ran as a third party candidate, received over 97,000 votes. If Ralph Nader had not run, we can assume a majority of those 97,000 would have gone to Al Gore, which would have meant that he would have easily won Florida. We never would have had a recount, and Al Gore definitely would have been our president. So that's their role as spoiler. Third parties have also impacted the American government system by lessening this thing known as straight ticket voting. When you used to hop into a ballot box and go to vote, your ballot was actually organized by party. So you would see all the Republicans on the right, all the Democrats on the left. You would check all the way down the R side and you're done. Well, now we have a lot more options for who to vote for. So now our ballots are organized by office. So you'll have governor, Democrat, Republican, rather than just all Democrats, all Republicans. So this third parties can be credited with this rise of split ticket voting, the idea where you vote for both Democrats and Republicans because we have more options. Last thing this podcast will shortly do is examine what are the key differences now between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. If there's one thing I know, it's that when I go out rapping. DJ, spin that.
Call 2013,
Peace.
Turn me up in my headphones, I'm going in. Mr. Corbin, I'm here to go hard again. I'ma spit my flow once that bass drops in. I'm here today to talk about political parties. I'm not up here running off about my shorties. I'ma go platinum on this song. In political parties, people belong. In political parties, they share similar beliefs. I do my best to keep the song brief. Let's look at my Republican style. I be shouting it out for all the mothers and shout. When I try to spit my sick flow, it's much easier when my taxes are low. If you do a crime, you deserve to die. Like the Bible says, it is an eye for an eye. So yeah, here I go. Throw your hands up, here I go. I throw my hands up, they're playing my song. All the taxes can go away. They bob in the hands like yeah. And I throw up my hands like yeah. I throw my hands up, they playing my song. Government, get out of my way. I said yeah. We need Republicans in the USA. I said yeah. Republicans in the USA. Let's look at the left on this spectrum, cause I got more oomph than any bass drum. Left side, the strong side, don't you remember the Titans? They support schools so we can be enlightened. Affirmative action makes up for the past, and this job program will make recovery last. Global warming is bad, so we need a green push. Just wish we could forget the past years with Bush. When I go outside for a jog, it'd be better breathe air and not smog. The government can fix the stock exchange, and like Barack Obama said, it's time for a change. And so yeah, here I go. I throw your hands up, cause here I go. I throw my hands up, they're playing my song. The recession has gone away, and they bob in their hands like yeah. And I throw up my hands like yeah. I throw my hands up, they're playing my song. Big government, it's the way. I said yeah, every day, yeah. We need more liberals in the USA. I said yeah. We need more liberals in the USA. Yeah, man. Call 2013. Remember, with clear eyes, full hearts, you can't lose. Let's go.